Hello everyone and welcome to today's session, Compliance to Security, Moving Beyond Checkboxes. I am Shilpa Sharma and I will be your host for the day. Before we get started, we would like to go over a few house rules. For our attendees, the session will be in listen-only mode and will last for an hour, out of which last 15 minutes will be dedicated to Q&A. If you have any question during the webinar to organizer or our speaker, use the Q&A window. Also, admissions are currently open. For further details about our courses, please visit our website www.eccu.edu. Our speaker for today's session, Carlos Moguel. He has 25 years of experience in IT. He is currently serves as the Chief Information Security Officer at Yinvanet, where he ensures the company's compliance with ISO IEC 27001 and ISO IEC 20001 international standards. Yinvanet is a specialized cybersecurity company with extensive experience in aligning security architecture plans and processes with information security standards and business objectives across various industries, including hospitality, government, education, and the private sector. Without any further delay, I would hand over the session to you, Carlos.
Thank you, Shilpa. Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for joining, and thank you, ECCU, for the invitation. And welcome to this conversation about how to jump from compliance to security. So I'm Carlos Moguel. The IT veteran sounds like a grumpy grandpa, but yes, I'm currently the Chief Information Security Officer for Yinvanet. That is a specialized cybersecurity company located in the Mexican Caribbean. And I'm currently leading the compliance program for the company, focusing on ISO 27000 and 20000 also. So our main goal as a company is to help our clients' business goals through improving the information security posture using standards. So thank you again, and thank you, ECCU. So let's get started. So our today's agenda is where we checking who is the audience, the objectives, what is a general overview, information security compliance. We'll be proposing a challenge, a solution, and an outcome. We'll review these two amazing frameworks, 27000 and MITRE attack. We'll be having like a use case scenario, a statement of applicability or SOA, and we'll have some action items that can consider as a practical improvement path. Of course, the key takeaways from this conversation and the really famous Q&A. So let's jump in. Audience, any information security leaders, and IT professional. But being honest, if you are interested in the topic, just join the conversation. And also the main objectives are have a quick or general overview of 27000, focusing on the information security controls and the SOA. Always aiming for to improve or the mitigate risk. That's the main goal behind these activities. And what about MITRE? We'll be checking the TTP heat maps and the CTI or cyber threat intelligence. And because of this, we'll be prioritizing the information security posture of your organization or even improve. So, sorry, information security compliance. What is that? It's an organization's effort to adhere to or to get as close as possible to a specific security standard or regulation or framework that is designed to protect your assets or your information. Of course, it involves implementing controls, procedures, best practices to meet any legal, regulatory, or industry requirements. And by prioritizing compliance, business can mitigate risk associated with data breaches and ensure a robust or improve your information security posture. This is not only intended for safeguarding the data, but also to protect one of the precious things that you have as an organization, that is your reputation. Why? Because if you have a reputation, that means the client trusts you, and if the client trusts you, the client pays the bills, right? So, and that's good for your business. So our today's challenge, solution, and outcome will be, the main challenge is to transition from this hypothetical, idealized place that is called the compliance world to the often imperfect or the real world. This can evolve, of course, a shift in the perspective and in the expectations. So let's say that compliance describes an utopian universe, right? And the solution is to use these two frameworks, because for me it's like MITRE attack describes how the poison works through your body, and ISO 27000 is like a wide spectrum antibiotics that is going to heal you. So we're going to be combining the defense and the attack frameworks to identify gaps in your security posture. So we're going to be using this as a multi-universe portal. And the outcome, or at least the expected outcome, is to have like a SOA or a statement of applicability-ish. This will help you to create some real-world action items and develop a strategic plan and allocate resources. Of course, we are going to be doing this based on the risk appetite of the organization. That means the risk tolerance of the organization. We're going to be improving the security posture, achieve information security compliance. So in a few words, we're going to be jumping between these two universes, the utopian world that is described through compliance to real world. So we're going to bring these ideas and translate those into real world action items. So ISO 27001 is a framework that is designed to establish, implement, maintain, and continually improve. That's the main theme, continually improve an information security management system, or our ISMS. It helps the organizations to protect, manage your information assets, and ensure that they remain secure and available. It is because of this CIA triad, that is an information security principle that focuses on protecting the three key aspects. That is confidentiality, integrity, and availability. Confidentiality means that information must be accessible only for those that were intended. Integrity, that information hasn't been tampered or altered, and availability, that you must be able to reach out the information, to access the information at any time. So the cherry on top for 27000 is the annex of information security control. So the standard has requirements, recommendation, but the beauty of that is the information security controls. At this moment, at version 2022, we have 93 controls that were grouped by or for themes that are organizational, people, physical, and technological. These are some of the examples, are not all the controls, just a few examples. For example, organizational information security roles, classification of information. So the organization must declare which information is public, which information is restricted, and so on. You need to be prepared for how to respond to information security incidents, privacy and protection of personal identifiable information. For example, in Canada is by PIDA. In Europe, you have GDPR. In Mexico, There's the federal law for personal information protection, and you need, for example, one of the controls is independent review of information security. You need a third party to help you with this. For the people category, screening, background checking, or security clearance, terms and conditions, people must have a contract, and the disciplinary process. No, people must know that any malicious activity or misuse of resources must be reviewed under these considerations. Confidentiality and non-disclosure, NDA, remote working, and so on. So for the physical and technological control, we have physical security, protecting against physical and environmental threats. For example, being in the Caribbean, we are always into issues about weather, tropical storms, hurricanes, and so on. So we have to take care of this. Clear desk and clear screen. So no more post-its stuck to your monitor with your password or having your password attached under your keyboard. You need cable security, equipment antennas, and for the technological, access to source code must be controlled, protection against malware, that's an important one, and management of technical vulnerabilities, it's an important also. Information backup is not only about having backups, it's testing the backups, right? Logging, for example, logging is really important. If you're into the context of PCI DSS version 4, I believe you need to keep logs for 1 year, 12 months, and must have quick access for the latest 3 months, I think. Web filtering, use of cryptography, and so on. So these are some examples of the security information controls that come from ISO 27001. And the main document, a required document for certification purposes under the 27001 context, is the SOA, or the Statement of Applicability. That this document describes which control the organization has chosen to implement, which of those have been excluded, and the justification for its decision. It considers another information or data, but in a general idea, this is what is need to be. This is what your SOA needs to display as a document. So this document is a live document. It must be aligned with the business objectives. It needs to include clear justifications of control selection. So it needs to be regularly updated. Of course, based on risks and audit feedback sometimes. And of course, you have to consider the changing business needs and the security landscapes that change on daily basis. So what about MITRE? MITRE is a beauty. So MITRE attack, it's adversarial tactics, techniques, and common knowledge. It's a globally accessible knowledge base that models cyber adversary behavior. One good thing about MITRE attack is that it's getting like a common language to the industry for understanding, detecting, and preventing real-world cybersecurity threats. It has a tool that is called the Navigator. It's amazing. It's a visual gap analysis, and in which you can display this matrix, and it helps you or describes the tactics, techniques, and procedures, these TTPs, and provides info about what threat actor might be targeting in your industry, and consider like 3 main aspects: the enterprise, that is the mostly what everyone is using to model the threats for an organization. Also considers the mobile, for mobile devices, and the ICS, the industrial control systems, because now we are having a big conversation on what is called the OT, or operational technology, that comes from all this sometimes legacy or vintage technology that are currently present in the manufacturing, the oil pipelines, the electrical facilities like PLCs and these devices that needs to be protected. For example, the TCA, the Transport Security Administration in the United States, not only takes care of the security at the airports, they also take care of the security of the oil pipelines in the physical and the cybersecurity aspect also. So they have to deal with old technology. So it's a what they are doing is it's a great effort. It's a big challenge to protect that infrastructure. And of course, MITRE is open source. So even though it comes from MIT, it can be considered open source. So open source can be, in some cases, your best friend. And if it's not, at least it could be a cheap solution. So MITRE, this is the enterprise matrix that I was telling you. It considers at this moment 14 tactics, such as reconnaissance, resource development, execution, persistence, privilege escalation, and so on. And in this matrix, you can see these columns with the tactics, and you can have inside the tactics some techniques, and in some cases, the techniques could have some sub-techniques. This is not a MITRE per se webinar, but we are just having like a quick overview. The tactics, techniques, and procedures, or the TTPs, as you can see. For example, at reconnaissance, we have 10 techniques, such as active scanning. And active scanning has 3 sub-techniques: scanning IP blocks, vulnerability scanning. For example, in the lateral movement, we have exploitation of remote services, and remote services has like 6-8 sub-techniques. And the beauty about MITRE is the CTI, the cyber threat intelligence. That is the process of collecting, analyzing, and interpreting the information about potential and ongoing cyber threats. This information is used to, or could be used to, enhance your organization's security posture by enabling them to anticipate. That's the main goal, to be able to see this, how the tactics are developed, and see the gaps that you have against your security posture. So this will give you an anticipation for those. So CTI considers 3 classifications. The first one is groups that are, you can search this knowledge base through actors or malicious organizations. You can search by software, which utilities are going to be used or these actors are using. And of course, campaigns. There is an intrusion activity conducted over a period of time. In this example, you can see the code hanger. That is a remote access tool targeting Fortinet devices. It just came out of the blue around 2023. It was against military and government entities in the Netherlands, but now it's everywhere. And this knowledge base provide the details about the tactics and so on, and it gives you knowledge about you can detect this, and it gives you recommendations on how to mitigate. So this is really a great tool. So let's jump into our use case scenario. We're going to be assuming that we are into a financial organization. So I think we will have a pre-existing strong security posture. So we're going to be focusing on the security as a security optimization exercise. So this conversation is going to be to detect the gaps and how can we improve those. We're going to be using MITRE, selecting some financial targeting groups, and we're going to be combining them, like such as Carbanak and Anunak. Even though they are 2 different groups, they kind of use the same methodology, and also Pin7 and Carbon Spider. different groups using the same tools. We're going to be evaluating the organization security posture, again, these tactics, and review the recommended mitigations from MITRE also. And then we'll be jumping into the context of 27001, match these TTPs with the security controls or even requirements. We'll be doing this prioritization of resources where we see this overlap between these tactics. And of course, we'll be creating a statement of applicability and action items that will be coming in the near future, like a practical improvement plan. Just quick notes about some of the tactics. For example, the reconnaissance tactic and resource development are kind of inevitable because those come from the attacker or from the malicious groups. So it falls outside the enterprise control. We usually refer those as external TTPs. Of course, priority comes from the amount and type of risk an organization is willing to accept in pursuit of its objectives. So it's being a financial organization, the acceptance of risk must be low. So this is what is called the risk appetite. And we're going to be doing emphasis on awareness. Users can be your weakest link in security terms. So we'll be proposing for sure a learning management system. Okay, we have these 2 or 4 groups. Carbonac, that is also known as Anunak, or they are different but using the same, and Fin7, also known as Carbon Spider. You can check this, all the technical aspects or the implementation, the techniques, the remediations through the MITRE attack knowledge base or CTI. So what we did is to the navigator tool that comes with the MITRE attack is a beautiful tool. You can download it and use it as a standalone application, or you use it online. You are able to create a layer and open the Carbonac and Anunak tactics and techniques, open a new layer and with the Fin7 and Carbon Spider techniques, and create a new one based on these 2. In that way, you can visually see where are the techniques that overlap between these two groups. In this case, I already marked those in green. You can see we have a lot of matches, but the main ones, as you can see, are these 3. One is about the valid accounts, about the fallback channels, and about the remote access software. So keep the idea that we are going to be pushing for an improvement exercise. So these 4 groups, we overlap the tactics, the techniques, and we see that they share the same approach in these techniques. So they are looking to get the credentials, the valid accounts. These credentials can be cloud accounts, local accounts, domain accounts, and so on. They are looking to have fallback channels. That means that they always prepare not only 1, but 2 or many ways to reconnect to your infrastructure, to your resources. And the third one, they are always using remote access software like remote desktoping and AnyDesk and so on. So in a review, the main we found the matches at initial access with valid accounts, cloud accounts, the file accounts, domain, local accounts, the persistence tactics, privilege escalation, defense, command and control. So we have to take care of these three, right? And so what about if we just jump into the statement of applicability or the SOA? So as you can see, in the left side, we have what MITRE is describing. We're considering the tactic, the technique, the sub-technique, the detection, and the mitigation. And in the other side, we're going to be connecting these two universe with the ISO 27000 security information controls. We'll be declaring the applicability of those, if they are implemented or not, and the justification. And in our last column, we have practical actions, practical or action items that will be following because of this analysis. So let's have a quick review. For example, in the tactic initial access, we have valid accounts. The sub-techniques are cloud accounts, default accounts, domain accounts, and local accounts. So the recommended detection from MITRE is to validate the logon sessions and the user accounts. And the mitigation strategies that they provide are account use policies. So you have to, if you have policies, congratulations, you need to review those policies on yearly or every 6 month basis. Active Directory configuration, for example, you need to follow the quality and the rotation of your password. You must create a password policy that says, for my organization, we require to rotate the password every 3 months. The password must contain upper, lowercase, and so on. For example, application developer guidance. If your organization develops your own solutions or sells solution as a service, you must consider the security testing in your software development cycle. Multi-factor authentication, this is so good. You need to implement that to protect your accounts. Password policies, privileged account management, you can consider having a PAM solution. User account management, you have to review on every now and then, based on your organization's requirements, your accounts at your systems or your applications. There's no need to keep your co-worker's account active if he left the organization 6 months ago. And of course, user training. So users, as already said, that can be your weakest link. So the main goal is to protect the accounts, protect not having remote connection software, and validate that you don't have fallback channels. So what about ISO and information security controls? We are proposing, in the context of organizational controls, policies, again, review, and if you don't have policies, develop those through a committee. Segregation of duties, threat intelligence is what we are doing right now, and access rights. If you are gonna deliver an account to a user, at least restrict as much as possible the access. You have to find the balance between being secure and have usability. That's the main goal of this. And of course, support the business, have revenue, right? Protection of records. And what about the people? Screening. If people are going to be using privileged accounts, screening of security clearance is strongly suggest. People need to have terms and conditions, I mean a contract. That doesn't mean that you are going to stop from the issues, but at least you have a legal reference in case that is needed. Disciplinary process, people need to know they are working under the context of these policies, so any misbehavior or malicious activities should be reviewed under the disciplinary process. Remote working, what is remote working? If People are going to be working from outside the company's facilities. They need to have an endpoint. They need to have a private space, and so on. And of course, information security event reporting. People need to know that they can collaborate with this, the physical security offices, rooms and facilities. You know, the telecommunications room must be protected. Clear desk and clear screen, we already have a conversation about that. And for technological controls, user endpoint devices. Now it's not only about having an AV, probably you're going to be needing XDR, extended detection and response, or even better, managed detection and response solution, and secure authentication, MFA, protection against malware, management of technical vulnerabilities. That's an important one. Information backup is not only about the backups. You have to test the backups regularly. Logging, keep your logs. PCI requires logs for 1 year. And of course, monitoring activities. So the applicability says that in this case, and the interest for time, we declare every single of these controls are applicable or should be already applied into the organization. Are implemented, yes, but feel free to use this idea. And if you don't have a specific control, to say, okay, this is applicable, it is not implemented, we need to implement it, or it is already implemented, but we need to improve that. You can declare some of the justifications. That's the main spirit of this SOA, because it's going to be pushing to mitigate the risk for your organization. So lastly, the action items, the real world. So we jump between this universe of compliance, took the ideas and give us some visibility of what could happen, what controls we could apply, and then we created some real world actions. Information, if you have those, great. If not, develop what you consider is needed for your organization. Awareness programs, that's really important. Remote working, create a safe way to connect to your infrastructure from outside your facilities. Password policies, change your password. We like to say that passwords are like underwear, so you must change it frequently and try not to share your underwear with other people. So you need third-party audits. We have like 2 audits during the year, and those are the moment of truth for us. That's where we really learn something. We really learn something when we bring new ideas into the conversation. So it's I recommend you to do that. Access right audits you have to review, and of course the perimeter. You need a next generation firewall that could be allow you to implement what is called the zero trust or the zero TNA, because now it's forget about having SSL based VPNs. Those are really weak. It's not only about just the IPsec VPN and so on. You need the zero trust network approach that as soon you are connected, the infrastructure assumes that I can trust you, so I'm gonna be following you in each step you do during your visit. So you need IPS, intrusion prevention and detection systems, and of course already said XDR on or MDR solutions. Vulnerability management, keep your environments updated, not only the production, the development, or even the testing. You have to take care of those too. Backup testing and privileged accounts vault. You can integrate in a safe space your privileged accounts, or even consider having a privileged access management, a PAM solution. And let's review the other one, the command and control, the fallback channels. I'm proposing the same approach for this, but MITRE says the detection comes from the network traffic. That's why you need to implement your next generation firewall. And the mitigation is using IPS or IDS. It is already considered into the action items into the firewall or the CISO approach. And lastly, for the remote access software, again, the detection comes from the network traffic process, and the mitigation recommended is disable or remove features. You are able to restrict the permissions in the devices for users that prevents to installing software in some cases, or not. You have the endpoint that could detect the installation of a malicious tool. The filter network traffic, and of course, again, the IDS and the IPS. So we're proposing the same control, the same approach. It is implemented, and so on. So finally, we have our statement of applicability-ish. It needs a little bit more of info, but so far so good. So let's talk about the practical improvement path based on our analysis. So for me now, it is information security policies. You must socialize these policies in your organization. Password quality and rotation, remote work, disciplinary process, and the backup. Awareness program, learning management systems. Now everybody's into micro learning. Being honest is not my cup of tea, but it's a good way to start this effort of awareness. The C-suite training, C-suite, they are humans, so it's not the same having John Doe's user account lost than any of the executives of the C-suite. Imagine losing the financial officer account. And of course, the security event or incident reporting help your people to understand that they can collaborate to create a better information security posture for your organization. Third-party audits. Now that you have the visibility from this analysis or this gap analysis, you can request, for example, pen test, or request, for example, phishing campaigns. Okay, if they are trying to get the accounts, have fallback channels, and use remote tools, what about if we talk about that in the awareness training? What about if we try to see how we are into this through a phishing campaign? And of course, using account reviews. So, vulnerability management program. Read your vendor security advisor. That's important. Change management. You need to have a committee to, like a CAP approval process. Ask for maintenance windows, have a rollback plan, and improve your incident response approach or processes. Endpoint, logging, and of course the firewall and the IPS and the IDS. Deep inspection, that means that you must enable this feature into your firewalls that will allow to see what really happens into these cipher-based communications. So lastly, what are the key takeaways from this conversation? Standards are your friends. Get closer to 27001 and 20,000 also. NIST, the cybersecurity framework, and the 853, and PCI. Those could be your best friends. Gap analysis. You are now able to close gaps before the actual incident. No, you can prioritize the remediation. Compliance and database decisions. You are going to look good in your organization, pushing for decisions based on best practices. Now you're going to be able to abstract compliance best practices into actionable tasks or goals. Keep an eye on your vulnerability program. You can use MITRE tags and include that in your alerts from your detection devices or CM appliances. You can have focused pen test exercises and awareness program. Now you will be having a security ecosystem optimization because you are able to identify potentially costly misconfigurations that could be found and targeted by malicious actors. So your overall security scores are going to be improved if you are into the secure score from Microsoft or secure rating from Fortinet or any secure system. That's good, but I strongly suggest that you consider using your own custom score, because in the secure rating, for example, you can apply exceptions, your score is going to improve that, but that doesn't mean that you are really improving your infrastructure security. If you create a custom score, for example, think about this: 100 points, 25 points come from your information if you have an information security incident. If you don't, assign yourself 25 points. If you have an external audit, and if you have a comment or no conformity, you can assign your 25 points, and the external audit and the technical review. So that sounds for me more real security score, and it can be used for each individual security information control. And lastly, what are the tendencies? We have seen a lot of solutions from vendors using AI and machine learning. Think about getting one of those, because attackers are also using machine learning. We have seen deepfakes for executive, for the C-suite, voice and video. Think about having a cyber insurance is one way to transfer the risk. The risk can be mitigated, avoid transfer or accepted, but using a cyber insurance is a good approach. Lastly, having a crypto wallet is not only for speculation purposes. Everybody laugh when I say this, but having a crypto wallet will allow you to have a quicker response in a ransomware scenario. So even though you pay the ransom, only 6 of 10 are able to recover the information. So that's all I have. Let's jump in to the Q&A. So thank you, everyone. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Carlos, for delivering such an informative session, and our attendees share the same sentiments. If you're interested to learn more about our program, do let us know in the poll that's going to be conducted now. If you would like to learn more, please select yes, and we will schedule a call to provide you with more information. So, Carlos, shall we start with the Q&A?
Sure.
Thank you. Our first question to you is, what is the key consideration or best practice while developing statement of applicability?
Well, would you mind repeating that again?
Sure. What is the key considerations or best practice while developing statement of applicability?
Yes. There are some requirements that are mandatory, and you must consider that come from the specification from the ISO standard. If I recall correctly, you must consider the full list of information security controls, indicate which of those are going to be using, have a little explanation about that, which of those you are excluding and why, if the control is already implemented or not. Some of the recommendation be as clear as possible. The statement of applicabilities, it can be, even though the organization is a financial or whatever, it can be a easy to read document. So the key is simple, keep it simple, right? So a few of those are the the controls, which of those are going to be using, the justification, and so on. One best practices for me is to always keep on yearly basis what can be considered like permanent. You can declare the 93 security controls as a permanent risk. In that way, the auditor is going to notice that even though those controls are or not applying to your current information security scheme, you are always considering as a permanent risk. So I believe that's the main best practice, to consider always all the security information controls.
Thank you for answering that question, Carlos. Our next question to you is, what informs the selection of MITRE framework for the scenarios in analysis?
Again, sorry.
What inform the selection of MITRE framework for the scenarios analysis?
What
Do you want to, I'll give you on chat.
Okay, sorry about that.
Yeah, I have shared the question with you on chat.
On the tab, what informs the selection? What informs the selection on MITRE? Gives you a more detailed view of what are the tactics and techniques that these malicious groups are using against you, or maybe gives you information what is currently the issues in your industry. That's the main information that you can get from MITRE. So it gives you a lot of visibility based on these real world scenarios that they extract the information and fleshes it out into the MITRE. So it's a great tool. I love that tool. There's another one that is Cyberkill, I think, Cyberkill chain and so on. But MITRE is a good approach to evaluate what is happening in the real world for your industry also.
Thank you for answering that question. Our next question to you is, do risk assessment have to be conducted to determine the gap before determining the controls?
It's the egg and the chicken, right? Yes, that can be done, or you can do the opposite. The thing is that it lives in a cycle. For example, you can have, for me, I always use the statement of applicability as the beginning, because I declare all the information security controls as a permanent, and then I jump with that through the risk assessment. So I'm using, okay, for the risk assessment, you have to have an inventory of your assets and align which asset depends, or you can associate each information security control and then accept, mitigate, avoid, or transfer. But then you are going to be realizing that you need to improve this, so you have to go back to the SOA and so on. What they usually do in the audits is that they first review my statement of applicability and then review my risk assessment. That is what I live in the real world, but you do whatever feels good for you, right? But I think the best practice could be starting in the vanilla world with the statement of applicability, and then validate that with the risk assessment and have a feedback always. Every now and then, if the security landscape changes, you have to go back and do this practice.
Thank you for answering that question, Carlos. Our next question to you is, who decide the security score, the security suite I'm using, like Microsoft Defender XDR, or is there any other framework for that?
For security scores, as far as I've seen, it depends on the vendor. For example, I know a little bit of the security score that comes from Microsoft. I mostly know the security rating that comes from Fortinet devices. In that case, is the vendor that proposes the criteria on how the security posture is evaluated. In the case of security rating for Fortinet, they create their own standard, Fortinet indicator, I can't remember, but it says this control is the equivalent of this control at PCI. This control is equivalent for this control at ISO 27000. So when you log into the device and say you're having this compliance of 80%. So if you review these scores, you can see what is the same score in different standards or vendors. But I think that's why I'm strongly suggesting create your own scores. My approach is to have 4 criteria: what my internal audit says, my external audit says, what my internal review says, and if I had or not a security incident. So let's think about 25 points for each. If I had no comment or no conformity or no issues in my internal, I get myself 25 points. The same for the internal. If I have my annually in technical review and I have no issues, I have my 75. Or if I have a security incident related to that security control, that's an issue for me. I won't have my 25 points from there. So my score for that is 75. And I can track the score for each information security control that is implemented. So for me, it's the better, because it's like telling you the truth of what is happening into your infrastructure.
Thank you for answering. Due to lack of time, I will take last 2 questions for the day. Our next question to you is, since hackers know our policies as following NIST rule, isn't it better to operate outside the box?
Would you mind writing the question in the chat box?
Sure, I'll write it down.
It's something about logs. Sorry, like any other IT veteran, I'm losing my hearing.
That's fine. I have shared it on chat.
I'm sorry. Yes, for sure. Thinking outside the box probably is one of the best approaches. So compliance gives you a framework. The beauty about compliance or the standards is it tells you what you need to get, but it is on your side the how. So it's always the standard say you have to cover this and that. Perfect. I'm gonna do it the way I think it is the proper or the best approach for my organization. So thinking out of the box can be, in fact, in some cases is one of the best approaches. So that's what I was telling you. The compliance is like an utopic world where assumes that everything is perfect, a lot of the shiny weather, rainbows everywhere. But the truth is that you live in the real world. So having the knowing about the hacking, knowing about the tendencies, so changing your hat, of course, will give you the both side of the story, and in that way you can develop a stronger security posture. Great question. That's for sure you can do that.
Thank you for answering that question. Our next question is, thank you for the insightful lecture. Sir, you have mentioned a crypto wallet for quicker response in the event of ransomware attack. So is it best to pay a ransom?
If it's affordable, sometimes that could be the best. It depends on the if you have backups, if you tested the backups, if you are able to restore the information, don't worry about paying the ransomware. If you are not in that position, if they are offering a good price and you have the resources, you have to that's a decision that you have to make based on your current conditions. And for example, we have a client. For us, it's getting really common to receive calls about ransomware situations. So one client had this issue. They were asking for they always ask for crypto, Solana and Bitcoin and so on. They never ask you to deposit some dollars through the Western Union or some 7-Eleven. So they always ask for Bitcoin. They decided to accept the impact. So they didn't pay in that case, and they restored these 4 or 5 devices with an old backup. They received the attack on the 24, and the latest backup was from the 7, so they have to restore all the information manually. They accepted the impact, so it depends on the situation. If you have backups, the backups are up to date, the backups are really tested, and maybe that's not what you need to do, but it depends on the scenario. But I just say that because that's one of the possibilities. Keep in mind that as far as we know, 6 of 10 are able to recover after paying the ransomware.
Thank you again to our wonderful speaker, Carlos, for answering those questions and for the great presentation and knowledge shared with our global audiences. It was a pleasure to have you with us, and we are looking for more and more sessions with you. Before we conclude the webinar, Carlos, would you like to give a small message to our audience?
No, just thank you. Thank you guys for joining this conversation. And thank you, ECCU, for the invitation to this worldwide awareness effort. So thank you so much, and nothing else. Just be prepared, be always ready to take the decisions. Keep always pushing to improve your security posture in your organization, or even in your own activities or normal life. So thank you again. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Carlos, for your message to our audience.